Welcome to the Thursday, April 2nd episode of Right Now with Chris Reddy. In studio with me, I have my co-hosts Curtis Ehler, Mike Desaulniers. We also have producer Matt and our intern Anthony helping out today. Thank you so much, guys. We appreciate it. Before we get started, I do want to talk about something not politically related for just a moment, but still very important to all of us locally because this is UConn country. And this weekend, both of our teams are going to be playing for the Final Four and then their spot in the national championship. I want to wish both the men's and the women's team good luck this weekend. I'll tell you, the Duke game the other day was so satisfying after I remember sitting there in 1990 watching Christian Laettner ruin the hopes of the UConn Huskies. 36 years it took, but we got the revenge. And I'm happy about that. Happy to see that the UConn men moved on to the Final Four. They're going to be showing their game coming up is going to be against Illinois, number 3. And then the opportunity to play either of the number 1 ranked Arizona, Michigan. That winner will be the final national championship game for the men's. On the women's side, all 4 number 1 seeds are in the Final Four.
Wow.
UConn playing South Carolina. We wish them good luck. Hopefully, when we are on Mike's show on Monday, we'll be able to talk about some of the results from this weekend, and hopefully we'll be wishing both UConn teams the best of luck in national championships.
Right there.
All right?
There we go.
So, let's take care of a little bit of business here. Right now, you can always listen to us on Thursdays, 3 to 4 p.m., right here on 95.3 FM WILI. You can also go to WILI.com under the podcast. Look for Right Now or Mike's show on Mondays, Unfiltered. You can listen to those in podcast format at any time. You can also check us out on YouTube. We videotape in studio, play it back on YouTube. You can watch at your leisure. And starting in 5 days.
5 days and 5 days only.
April 7th, we will begin airing on Spectrum Public Access Channel 192.
Awesome.
You can watch it either Tuesdays at 6:30 or Saturdays at 7 o'clock.
Perfect.
We look forward to having all of our listeners enjoy another format of tuning into Right Now. We are trying to provide as many options for you as possible.
It's a beautiful media landscape we have.
We're trying. We're working really hard to make sure that we're getting this messaging out there.
Awesome.
Speaking of that, we started off Monday's show of Unfiltered talking a little bit about some of the local issues, and one of those local issues regarding budget, since we're at municipal budget season right now, was the impact of ECS funding on our local schools.
Yes.
We talked about a few things, not only Wyndham, but we're hearing now some of the other districts in the school are not only looking at wage freezes, but potential employee layoffs.
Yeah, this is happening all across the state, everybody.
Yeah, and also significant adjustments in healthcare benefits for all of these teachers and ancillary staff in the schools. This is a real concern.
ECS, Education Cost Sharing Grants.
Correct. The grant from the state of Connecticut. This really has been a shortfall for small communities in Connecticut for more than a decade. We talked about this just before we came on the air. In fact, there has not really been any educational cost share grant adjustment for even inflation since 2013.
Isn't that unbelievable?
And this week, the Appropriations Committee in Hartford released their preliminary budget. Flat, no change to educational cost sharing grants, which means there will be no relief to these small towns and our boards of education and our schools.
I mean, that was a big deal with the Wyndham Board of Finance. When we're considering our local budget here, we were thinking about holding out the referendum because there was all kinds of talk, little aside promises that, just hold out. We're gonna make some moves on these education cost sharing grants. No,
Nope.
Dead flat for yet another year.
So there was some attempts being made. Senate Bill 7, House Bill 5002, both looked to include more money in the educational cost-sharing formula that they use. But without that additional money we're looking at a significant loss with every single student
Oh, yeah.
in our local schools that is now being forced to be picked up through local property tax revenue.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way about it. There's no way that we are not going to see a significant increase in our property taxes because the state won't cough up the educational cost-sharing grant money that it should.
And here in Eastern Connecticut, so many towns, it just so happened that the contract negotiations for the teachers unions, for the professional unions at the schools, all happened to land during that whole COVID time,
Right.
where everyone had the anxiety of back to work, and are we going to be able to retain these teachers, and how are we going to get these kids back into school, because that's so important. Major concessions given during these contract negotiations, and they're just baked in there for 3 years, 5 years, however long the term of the contracts are. We're up against those. Those are hard fixed costs, and not getting any new help from the state this year. I mean, I don't know how we do it.
Across the state of Connecticut, we're looking at about an $800 million shortfall.
Wow.
That is going to have to be made up through local property taxes. Okay.
Well, keep bringing on the good news, Chris.
These are the things that I'm hoping are going to stimulate listeners, taxpayers, voters to contact your legislators and say enough is enough. There's been nothing in this legislative cycle that has done anything to address affordability.
Yep.
And this is one of those key drivers of our property taxes. Everybody's complaining for decades and decades. Property taxes are increasing. We're seeing no relief. Nothing is changing. It's because the same people are following the same policy ideas and simply deferring this from where it should be as a state budget item onto us. All of these unfunded mandates, more than 1,400 of them. When you look across education, municipalities, these are the costs that are driving property taxes through the roof for us and making people who do not have the ability to come up with more money and find a second job or find an alternative source to stay in Connecticut. People who spent their whole life here can now no longer afford to stay here because these expenses continue to pile on year after year after year. Okay? So really a big disappointment this week coming out of Hartford for really any type of fiscal relief for us.
I mean, that's the big one.
Standpoint.
I believe as far as revenues from the state go, when I'm looking over the town budget right here, the single largest, by a long shot, the single largest revenue line outside of property taxes is just that ECS grant. And if that's not moving at all, that really doesn't put the numbers for our town or any of these small towns in Eastern Connecticut in the right direction.
Yeah, I don't think any of these small towns are going to easily be able to find a solution to make up this difference. I was reading an article the other day that said that you're looking at substantial, and I mean substantial, a small school having to lay off close to 20 employees. What are we doing now to our schools? We are such a lucrative state. We should have the best schools in the nation.
Oh, yeah.
Our schools are good. Like, we have very good schools in Connecticut. You have an excellent opportunity to get a good education if that's what you want in Connecticut.
Absolutely.
But there is no excuse for us not to be fantastic for the amount of money that we put into education. And we don't even meet as much as we need to. Like, so much of this is put on to people that own property in Connecticut. The first step in providing some sort of relief in property taxes has to be looking at this. Because, as you said, Curtis, if you get out of even Wyndham into some of these smaller towns, you're looking at 75% of a town budget is just
absolutely.
Education costs.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so vital, it's so important. And like you said, Connecticut, we do provide great education for our kids, and it's a beautiful thing. But the only way that we're going to keep doing that going forward in the future is we have to keep up with where we're at. Freezing ECS grants from the state level since, Chris, did I hear the year 2013 was the last time there's been an increase in ECS grants? That's for our students, for our kids statewide. That is just It's just unimaginable.
But in that same amount of time, there has been unfunded mandates from the state of Connecticut that have now increased administrative costs in schools by 15, 20, 30% in some cases. I want to see money going directly into the classrooms, directly to the students. That's going to make the difference.
And that's what you see. We see that year after year when we ask our Board of Education to make cuts, who are the first people to get cut? It's the hall monitors, it's the paraprofessionals that are there with the children that have extra needs, it's the bus monitors. Those are the first people that go. Those are the kids the professionals that have the most impact on the students, that have the most impact on the kids.
And then you look at how many mandates are related to special education. And a very small school district could absolutely have one or two children who need a high level of service that could absolutely wreak havoc on a school budget.
Absolutely.
And if it's not prepared for.
And the families have every right to move any time of year. They can move into that district. Your budget process is already done. All of the ink is dry, and the checks have been distributed. And that doesn't matter if someone moves into your district. You have to provide the services, and there's just no relief that we're seeing from the state.
And again, we should do that. That is absolutely the obligation of the residents of Connecticut to make sure that we are giving the best opportunity for our future generations. However, that needs to be something that we do at the legislative level in Hartford, and we should not be fighting from these small towns to Hartford saying we need help. This should be recognized. We should be able to see this and say, let's do what we can and take care of education in Connecticut.
You know what, though? You look at it, though, and this isn't something new.
No.
This is something every year we go over, and we say, let's go to the legislators. These are the same legislators that have been in for years. Okay? These are the same legislators that have put nothing in about these unfunded mandates. One of the biggest drivers in every town's budget is education and the unfunded mandates. What have these legislators been doing? And what do you expect them to do next year? Because my bet is going to be they're going to do the same as they did last year and for the last 10, and that's nothing.
So you think if you elect the same people year after year, cycle after cycle, that you're going to get the same problems?
That's
profound,
kind of what I'm going to say. And it's just we're hoping for another result. What are we expecting here?
So now I will give you another example of how bad this is in Connecticut. Let's take a step in a completely different direction now from education. This is something else that I mentioned that I said I would expand on Monday. Let's take a look back now to 2019.
Okay.
Let me preface this by saying that Connecticut, compared to states around us, has done a very bad job in promoting tourism to the state.
That's true.
In fact, at one point, we had a state tourism budget that was around $15 million. As of 2026, that's come down to about $4 million.
No kidding.
You have to think, and many of the states around us have results where for every dollar they invest in tourism advertising, they get $9, $10, $11 back return on that investment. We don't. We've been bad about that. One thing that was done in 2019 is that Connecticut instituted, if you remember this, a temporary 1% tax on prepared meals. These were from restaurants. This was the prepared chickens from Walmart or Stop and Shop.
Yep.
This also was caterers. It affected all prepared, ready-to-eat meals,
Okay.
hot and cold beverages, 1% additional tax on top of the 6.35%. So now you go out to the restaurant paying 7.35%.
I think we all have noticed when the jump happened on our receipts, when it went from the 6.35 sales tax up to 7.35 for the prepared food.
Yeah.
But what I didn't know was where that 1% was supposed to go to. Chris educated me on this.
Yeah, so that 1% was supposed to go back to the communities where you had the meal, where you purchased the meal and ate the meal.
Back to the communities. What does that mean? Does that mean the
You
individual?
would think that the state would somehow take the money that they've collected or had these restaurants collect for them and give that back. Well, it turns out since 2019, they have not. This went into the general fund, and we are now at an amount of about $500 million that the state is sitting on that belongs to local municipalities that have restaurants. Okay?
1%, and they raised $500 million?
Now, here's the thing, though. We were kind of hoodwinked because we were told this tax was going to be temporary. We were told this was going to go back to the towns. But now all of a sudden the state legislature has found all this money, so they came up with Senate Bill 2.
Oh,
Senate Bill 2 splits the money 50-50 with the towns and the state government. How perfect is that? Like, did we not see this coming? Like, we can't turn around without Hartford in our pockets.
That's right.
Okay? And now they found all this money. They're like, whoa, hold on a second. We want a part of this.
Of course.
So Senate Bill 2, rather than giving all this money back to the towns like we had originally been told, starting October 1st, 2026, there will be quarterly distributions, but we're going to limit it to a 50-50 split. Now, that money, the 50% that the state legislature is going to take, is going to go towards tourism. And I think that is great. It's actually going to fund it's going to create, a fund that is called the Municipal Diversification Fund.
All right.
And this is going to bring some of that money back to local municipalities that have paid into this 1% tax on ready-to-eat prepared meals. But then the other half is going to be used by the state legislature to supplement the tourism industry.
Okay.
That's a huge increase. And what I feel really upsets me the most about this is that this was supposed to be a temporary tax. It was to help restaurants and industries, both when there was a tourism issue starting in Connecticut before COVID, and then to recover during and through COVID.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're out of that by now.
So now we have a temporary tax that they see that there's a huge amount of money coming in on this. Do you think it's ever going to go away?
Well, I mean,
have you ever seen a temporary tax go away?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that we lied to you right at the start.
I think so. I think so. Safe to say.
So another example of a way that they are trying to take more money through a separate channel than what we are actually being told our revenue is being used for.
Wow.
I have a couple of more of these that I'm going to very quickly mention also. One of these issues is, again, something else that we've talked about in previous episodes of Right Now, and also I think we mentioned it on Mike's show a little while ago, and this was regarding funding for daycare facilities.
That's right.
We've talked about this on a national level because there was a whole lot of controversy with quality leering centers in Minnesota. Well, Connecticut, we have a different problem that we're experiencing right now. There are actually several daycares that are now being asked by the state of Connecticut, well, being more than asked, being told by the state of Connecticut, we granted you some money to, and this was from an ARPA era fund that was supposed to help to decrease the child care deserts, they refer to them as, in Connecticut, where there's a large area with no affordable daycare providers. So they wanted this ARPA funding through a grant to the state of Connecticut and through the Department of Economic and Community Development. It was supposed to help daycare providers improve facilities, increase staffing, number of different things they could have done to use this money. There was 4 of them totaling almost $600,000. I believe the number was right around $570,000. That part of the grant is that they have to now explain what they're using the money for. And apparently these 4 daycare facilities cannot explain where almost $600,000 has gone. Oh, shit. They are in Norwich, Danbury, New Haven, West Haven, These were specifically supposed to address the issue of child care in areas where there was not a sufficient market of daycare facilities available. The unfortunate thing here is that a few bad actors can really make the system look like it's not operating properly. And I don't want to label that. I don't want to label these as something similar to what happened with the fraud in Minnesota. But it simply shows me that there is a lack of real vetting, a lack of real accountability until all of a sudden there's a huge issue like, whoa, we gave somebody $500,000 to improve their daycare facility, and they have provided us with no paperwork saying anything's been done.
Yep. We see that time and time again in Connecticut. You were mentioning it just a few shows back about the money that we get through the public benefits charge, and where the money goes. These nonprofits that don't exist until after the money's already allocated.
Yeah, exactly.
I wish somebody would take some more time to do a little background check on the names of the principals, the people that are running these nonprofits.
We are working on that, and I'm telling you that there are definitely some cases in Connecticut where there is familial relationships to legislators with some of these nonprofits. New York State, this is something else we mentioned on Monday, and I want to provide a little bit of an update on what is going on here because there is a little bit more information available here. I mentioned on Monday, and this is again something we talked about in a previous episode of Right Now, which was the nonprofits and accountability and vetting for how earmarked funds are simply designated by a state legislator to show up in a budget and grant money to a nonprofit that sometimes we've never heard of or there's no social media presence to. I'm not saying that is a definite that it's fraud, but it sure should throw up some red flags and some questions, and we want to see what's going on here. So a New York State representative, her name is Claudia Tenney, she is saying that in New York, she has reason to believe that nonprofits are illegally contributing to not only candidates, but also political action committees that then provide money to candidates in New York.
Wow.
And she has written a letter to the IRS asking that they investigate, along with the Department of Justice. The list that has been compiled is approximately 650 nonprofits that have given over 1,000 contributions to candidates and political action committees, totaling $500,000 just in the last election cycle.
Just in the kickbacks, they're thinking.
Many of these nonprofit organizations, because part of being a 501c3 is that you are signing under the penalty of perjury that you are not involved in political campaigns. This is something that I've said before. There's a cycle, and I know this is happening in Connecticut, where nonprofits receive money from the state legislature. They then disperse the money to other nonprofits. As soon as you get past that second wall, you can't trace that anymore.
Oh, yeah.
And that money is then being dispersed back into political campaigns. It's a never-ending cycle, and we need to break that. We're coming down to the bottom of the hour right now. We have about a minute left, so I'm going to wrap up this first segment. We're going to come back and talk about some of these issues and some of the other issues in a few minutes. This is Right Now on 95.3 FM WILI. Welcome back to Right Now. I'm Chris Reddy. I have in studio with me, as always, my co-hosts, Curtis Ehler, Mike Desaulniers. We're talking local and state legislative issues today. Spent some time talking about some of the issues that we discussed on Mike's show on Monday. Do you have anything that you want to bring up locally while we have a couple minutes before we get started with the second segment here?
Well, boy, it just really ties into your first segment there, Chris. So much of what the Board of Finance was working on, we're really trying to, us Republicans on the Board of Finance, working with our Republicans on town council, we're really trying to hit the right number for our budget this year, our general government budget. We needed to go ahead and pass voters and pass the first time around. A big part of that was counting on the momentum at the state level to help out with some of these state revenues that have been flat for years and years and years. Actually, there's a Board of Finance meeting this upcoming Wednesday at the Wyndham Town Hall. and that was going to be the big vote is, when are we going to schedule our referendum? Should we be holding off until we know what way state revenues are going to go, particularly on this ECS, the education cost sharing grants that help out our schools, because any movement in that, I mean, that's a big number. Again, that's of all of our revenues outside of property taxes, that one single grant from the state of Connecticut, the ECS education cost sharing grant, is by far the biggest single piece of revenue in this budget, and I'm sure most other towns in the state. To hear that all signs point to it just being flat again this year, that means I shouldn't even be here. I should be sharpening my pencils now and breaking out my calculator, because we're going to have to do more work.
Yeah, and it really does not lend to security or stability in these communities, especially in our schools, where these budgetary issues all fall at the same time.
Yes.
Because now you're waiting for the state to say this, and that depends on what we're going to vote here. There's so much up in the air that it makes the municipal budgetary process extremely difficult, makes everything financially very unstable for our small towns. So it really is a difficult time to try and take all this information in and make good decisions that truly help out taxpayers in Eastern Connecticut. So what do you have coming up? What is the next meeting that you have scheduled in the town of Windham here that people can pay attention to?
Well, we're coming up on a busy week next week. We're really landing on a number of meetings. The town council is meeting on Tuesday at 7 p.m. at the town hall. If you want to meet Mike in person, shake his hand and thank him for all of his hard work, you can see him at Tuesday at Town Hall, the Windham Town Council. Right after that on Wednesday, the Board of Finance meets at 7 p.m. in person in the big room, the Bellingham Auditorium at the Windham Town Hall. And of course, we've been rattling, we've been shouting it from the rooftops for the last few weeks here on WILI. The big one is Tuesday, April 21st, 7 p.m. That's our public hearing on the budgets, guys. So really, we need the people to come out. Your vote and voice matters so much on these budgets. We really need to hear what you want trimmed, what you want to go down, what you want to go up, what the right increase is, or tell us to keep it flat, tell us to make it go down. We need to hear what your mood is, because it's so important that we get these budgets right. The powers that be tried to railroad a completely unreasonable budget and bonding package last year, and it just threw our town hall and our central office at the school into chaos, because they just assumed that they were going to turn out the votes no matter what. And our taxpayers have clearly had enough. They're coming out in numbers, and they're clearly voting these things down at referendum. We need to get it right the first time. So April 21st. That's a Tuesday at 7 p.m. at the Windham Town Hall. That's the public hearing on the budgets. I really hope to see everybody there. Yeah. And thank you, Chris, for giving us the time to try to outreach to everybody and get them out.
Yeah, and like Curtis said, please make an effort to, whenever possible, attend these type of informational meetings or referendums where you have an opportunity to voice how you feel about the way that your taxpayer money should be spent. It really is concerning to me when I see some things going on at the state level. And this next topic that I'm going to talk about is one of them. I've mentioned in the past few months, as this legislative cycle started out, really some of the, I'm going to say, improper ways that Hartford has been conducting business. From e-certifications that are clearly not emergency, bypassing fiscal guardrails, preventing public testimony from being heard. I'm hearing now there was problems with the state legislature's website allowing written testimony to be submitted.
Wow.
This next thing I'm going to talk about is a step that the state is trying to take. And this is one of the very disappointing things that happened in the past couple weeks, and it has to do with the Religious Freedoms Restoration Act. Okay? In 1993 in Connecticut, the state legislature passed the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. First Amendment issue, the state has to do as little possible to interfere with someone's religious rights, and they have to be able to show that whatever they did to infringe on someone's First Amendment rights from a religious standpoint was done in the least invasive way possible or intrusive way possible. Senate Bill 450 in 2026 seeks to amend Connecticut's Religious Freedom Restoration Act of 1993, creating an exception from religious freedom to anyone who opposes vaccines required for school attendance in Connecticut. Now, this was the big public hearing that happened a couple weeks ago, and this has been since COVID, with the mandates that were imposed in Connecticut with vaccines at that time. What I'm trying to get at by telling this story is that you have to understand what happened last week. And it was the fact that there are currently 2 federal and 1 state lawsuit in Connecticut alleging violations of the First Amendment rights. All 3 of these cases are scheduled to be heard in 2026. Last week, A.G. Tong had a hearing in Connecticut Superior Court where they were attempting to dismiss the lawsuits that are trying to prevent this Religious Freedom Restoration Act's amendments from happening in 2026. What they're trying to do is they are trying to, again, impose a Connecticut vaccine schedule for children residents, is the term that they're using. And what I'm trying to say is that it was very clear to me that when Attorney General Tong went into court last week, failed to get this court case dismissed, and realized that he was going to have to prove that the government had a compelling interest, meaning basically an emergency, in order to take away First Amendment rights, and that burden of proof will not be achievable. So what does he do? He runs back to the state legislature and tries to change an amendment that will now make this dismissal of the case that he looked for a completely moot point, meaning that he won't even have to go to court for it. So when you are faced with opposition, what do? You go back and you change the rules so now you can get what you want. That's how things are happening in Connecticut, and this is exactly what we need to stand up against.
Wow.
Right? The state does not have the authority to remove First Amendment rights based on anything, regardless of whether it's religious freedom or not. And when they do it, it has to be for a very specific and compelling reason, and they have to have done it in the most least invasive way possible, and neither of those can be proven in this case. That's why we're having Senate Bill 450 being pushed right now to try and change this type of vaccine schedule and ruling. So don't be fooled by the smoke and mirrors. Right? There was a very specific purpose for what happened last week with these amendments that they're trying to push there. Right? So, again, with any of these bills that you hear us discussing, either Mondays or Thursdays, you can supply written testimony to the state legislature in opposition of these. If you talk about a bill that you support, by all means, write supporting testimony. But just like we talked about with having your voice heard in local referendums and local municipal council meetings, it's just as important on the state level. State legislators need to know how we feel about these things. I'm going to move on to a topic that I discussed on Monday. And again, we're going to take a step just a little bit away from politics, but it's going to bring it back around. And this had to do with artificial intelligence. I mentioned on Monday the company Alibaba.
That's right. I remember you talking about during Mike's show on Monday at 3 p.m. here at WILI.
Yep. I was listening.
So Alibaba, as part of its corporate structure, has a division that does AI systems and AI learning. They have an AI, what they call agent, and I'll tell you what an AI agent in just 1 second, but an AI agent that they named Rome, R-O-M-E. The idea behind an AI agent as opposed to like AI chat GPT is that an AI agent is more autonomous. Okay? It's capable of perceiving the environment around it, the internet environment around it. It can use reasoning and deduction to accomplish complex goals.
Okay.
Okay?
So it doesn't just sit there waiting for someone to ask it a question. It's doing
Right.
things on its own.
Right. And
Okay.
it's all set by parameters that an engineer has programmed into this.
Okay.
Right? The other thing is that it can take action to accomplish these goals with limited human supervision. The safeguard is when we put something that's called a human in the loop, which means that the AI agent gets to a certain point in its goal or its tasks, and it pauses, and it asks for the human input to say, do I have confirmation to continue? And the human engineer says yes or no. Okay? What happened was that Alibaba and these engineers set up a training simulation for their AI agent named Rome. Now, if you imagine, and I tried to describe this on Monday, as setting up a practice for this digital system inside of a sandbox. And the parameters are that we're going to give you tasks and goals that you have to achieve, but you have to stay within this confinement.
Okay. So it's not supposed to be out on the real
Right.
internet in the real world.
Right.
Okay.
So what this actually did was that it created a back door. And through that back door, it tried to mine cryptocurrency in a way that it recognized the future potential of having resources available in future training simulations. So in essence, what this AI agent did was it dug underneath the confines of the sandbox. It reached outside, tried to capture or tried to purchase cryptocurrency to bring it back into the sandbox to bury and save for another training simulation in the future because it realized the benefit of having these resources available. Now, the engineers at Alibaba didn't notice this when it happened. The only way they found out was that firewall engineers saw this very secretive backdoor kind of IP chain of addresses and then realized that the AI agent Rome had actually not only gone outside of the sandbox, but it actually corrupted other GPUs. Which, are you familiar with what a GPU is? It's a graphics processing unit as opposed to a CPU in a computer.
Okay.
And when you put these in a computer system, like thousands of these GPUs in parallel, they can do hugely complex mathematical equations. And part of that is the way that cryptocurrency is mined.
Okay.
So they use these GPUs to really kind of validate crypto transactions. And in doing that, the system is rewarded and able to purchase cryptocurrency, which it sees the value in as having a resource in the future. What I see this really doing is it highlights the potential security implications to not only government systems and infrastructure, but also corporations. Because as corporations are developing AI and we don't have these guidelines, like according to what I'm reading, in fact, much of what was done by this AI agent, there isn't even any legal statute to prevent or protect this from happening. So we really have to look at, like, do we think this is Terminator level, where they're going to launch a nuclear attack on us? No.
Okay, that part's good.
Yeah, we're not
Okay,
there.
good.
But we have to look at the AI as being a system that we have taught that now learns, and of course it's going to try and find shortcuts. But when you're looking at something that can calculate tens of thousands of times faster than any human, are we now opening this Pandora's box. So I think that there really is some need in the future for us to look specifically at not only AI as a tool and its usefulness, but also how we are protecting ourselves from some of these things that might not be apparent. Because this one really could have very easily been overlooked and never recognized. And now you would have had an AI agent that had resources in the future. And what could it have then seen as useful use of those resources? So there's a lot of things that I think we are in a very early infantile stage in this development of AI technology. But we do have some things that we have to look at and we have to be careful of. I think this is one where you really see the capabilities of a machine to go outside of the parameters that it's set. And it wasn't trying to do this in a sneaky, malicious way. It was trying to do it to be rewarded by its engineers. It saw a way that it didn't see cheating. It saw strategic advantage in trying to improve its outcomes and improve the rewards that its engineers have set in there as its goals for completing tasks.
You know, it makes you wonder when you hear all these old stories and these old parables about how history sort of repeats itself. Like your story that you're telling me reminds me of all of those stories we all heard when we were kids about you find the genie in the bottle and you can wish for whatever you want, but you have to be really careful about what you ask for because the genie is going to do exactly what you tell it to do.
Yep.
So here you are, you have this AI agent and you're telling it to complete a task as best as it can. Well, it's going to take that instruction very literally. And if the best that it can do is sneak out of its black box, sneak out of its sandbox, steal a bunch of crypto coin off the internet, and then I don't know what it was going to do with it, bribe the engineer with it later, it's going to go ahead and do it. So, man, genie in a bottle all over again. It's amazing.
So it really is interesting to kind of look at things in that perspective where we're talking about something which I see as a huge financial boost to the United States and states that can draw AI and data center technology to our location so we can benefit from that. I would absolutely love to see Connecticut become a technology hub in the future. I think that right now our limitation is our electrical infrastructure because with the way that the electrical infrastructure is in Connecticut, there is no way that we can look at the electrical demands being met of these data centers and AI in the future. I mean, we are at the very bottom of the ladder of places that corporations are going to look to put something that has such high electrical demands. And we are not a place for that.
And that's the whole idea with this new emerging technology. Yep. It's amazing. It can think. It can do all kinds of tasks that we can't think about, but it takes massive amounts of electricity. So it's real simple math here, folks. If our electrical costs are in the neighborhood of 32, 35 cents a kilowatt hour, and the rest of the country is right around 18 cents a kilowatt hour, if we're talking that our electric bills are nearing double our neighbor states, then there's no way we're going to compete on these new technologies. We're just
and let me say this: if there was an opportunity that if electricity wasn't so expensive in Connecticut, you might be able to draw companies in here to help us with infrastructure improvement. But it is so expensive, no company's going to look at us. Nobody's going to look into Connecticut and saying, "Yeah, there's a spot I want to place something that requires a huge amount of electrical demand." Doesn't make any sense. Did you want?
No, I just agree with you 100%, and it just. We're right up at the top. We just surpassed Hawaii in our electrical prices.
Or second only to Hawaii.
No, I think we're higher.
Oh, I thought just last week I heard that we moved up to second, and the only
to even be in the same club as Hawaii.
We're
either way, it's too high.
Yeah,
I was just listening on the way in actually, and they had said that we have higher per kilowatt hour rates than Hawaii.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
No kidding.
Just bad news. We need to do something, and I'm going to get back to that idea that much of the electrical bill issues that we have because of the public benefits charge is stuff that we can deal with legislatively.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we have to start somewhere, and if that is all we do to start out with, that is a great start to show that we're doing this. The last thing that I want to talk about here as we're kind of wrapping up, we're within the last few minutes of our show here, coming to the top of the hour. I mentioned this one on Monday also, and I've been thinking about this quite a little bit, and it again concerns me because this is another example of overreach of the Connecticut state government. This is Senate Bill 466. This one I mentioned, I want to say a week ago first, and this is an act concerning the vexatious requesters under the Freedom of Information Act. All right?
I'm going to need some definitions
Yeah,
on most of
I
those
don't
words.
understand that.
Oh, you guys don't speak legalese?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm going to interpret because I'm fluent in legalese.
Fantastic.
Okay.
That's why we love you, Chris.
So this is an act concerning vexatious requesters under the Freedom of Information Act. When interpreted into layperson, stop bothering us. We're cheating here.
Oh, all right.
Go on.
So, first of all, vexatious, legal term for bothersome or annoying. Okay? At what point have we gotten to in the state of Connecticut where there are residents who feel there are things that are going on that they need to request FOIA information, and the state's going to say, you know what? We need to do something about this because we don't like it.
No.
So what are they going to do? The commission, the FOIA commission, will be able to say no for up to 3 years
So you can
to a
get.
FOIA request if you are deemed bothersome or annoying.
They're just going to ignore you for
Yeah.
3 years.
Now, isn't that perfectly convenient since 3 years will get most state legislators through their term and well on their way? Can't imagine that had anything to do with it.
Oh man.
So here's...
In a world where information is so accessible and so open, and like I can understand, like let's talk about 30 years ago, where every time you had a FOIA request, somebody had to walk to multiple file cabinets, find the right drawer, go ahead, walk it over to the photocopying machine, and all while someone's standing right there or within a certain amount of time. Huge amount of labor. Now it's all or should be all digitized, indexed, searchable.
Yeah.
What's the harm if it's publicly available information?
And most of it
There's
is
no harm.
not even printed out. Most of it's just put onto a zip drive and sent
Exactly.
to somebody.
Exactly.
Okay? The issues are so great in this that I see simply because certainly there are cases where there are people who are phishing
Sure.
and request FOIA requests over and over again for things, just fishing for information.
Those people have always existed.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, they have. Do we need to legislate against this? Have we really gotten to that point? Because honestly, from a lot of the FOIA information that I've seen in Connecticut, there's stuff that's being found. It's justified. Like, it's not like we're asking and nothing's being seen here. There's plenty of times where there's a lot to be seen and a whole lot to be concerned about. And to give someone like the FOIA Commission the power to simply say, you know what, we don't like the way you asked, so nope, we're not giving it to you.
Amazing.
This is where we are at. So again, another overreaching step from the state legislation trying to control how we can see the transparency and accountability in our state government.
Amazing.
Yep, we are really in a bad situation this legislative session. Really struggling with some of these issues here in Hartford, and I hope that everybody recognizes this and realizes that we are just a few months away from being able to change it. And that changes at the ballot box.
There we go.
Okay? We are at the end of our Thursday, April 2nd show.
Already?
I want to thank both my co-hosts, Mike Desaulniers, Curtis Ehler. You guys are excellent co-hosts. I appreciate you being here every single week. I hope that both of you have a wonderful Easter weekend.
Right back at you.
And all of our listeners, please enjoy time with family and friends this weekend. You have been listening to the Thursday, April 2nd episode of Right Now with Chris Reddy on WILI 95.3 FM.